Shalom Temple Israel. It's a cold and rainy day outside, so I hope that you're staying comfortable and warm inside. And we're thankful that the worst we're experiencing is some rain and a little bit of sleet when we see other parts of the country experiencing incredible amounts of snow and a loss of power and no heat. And so we stay safe inside. This Shabbat, we read the Torah portion of Truma. And Truma is the first of 5 Torah portions that deal with the instructions from God to our Israelite ancestors about how to build the Mishkan, the dwelling place for God, the very first Jewish temple in history. And while the Mishkan, this tent that the Israelites carried across the desert, is long gone, its impact is still felt in the Jewish world today. Because the Mishkan was the inspiration for Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, and then for the second temple built on the Temple Mount. And then once the second temple was destroyed by the Romans and synagogues spread out across the world, each and every one of our synagogues and temples was modeled on those earlier temples and on the Mishkan that we read about in this week's Torah portion. Just like the menorah was prominently displayed in the temple, so too menorahs are located on our bima to decorate the bima. And just like the holiest part of the temple was the ark, the aron, so too the holiest part of our temple is the aron. So whenever you walk into a temple, you know that the design is based on the Torah portion that we will read this Shabbat. But there's one verse at the beginning of the Torah portion that I would look at. And it's when God first gives the direction to the Israelites to build the temple. He asks Moses to collect donations, contributions from anyone whose heart moves them to contribute the materials needed to build the temple. And then God says, "V'asu li mikdash v'shachanti betocham," and you should build for me a mikdash, a holy place, that I may dwell among them. And commentaries note, it doesn't say you should build for me a mikdash and I will dwell in it. Rather it says I will dwell among them. That a mikdash, a sacred space, is nothing without the people who inhabit that space, who use that space to worship God and to be in community with each other. And this year, it's pretty remarkable how we have formed our own sacred spaces, our own mikdashim in our homes, in our houses, and in other places when we haven't been able to attend our mikdash, our sacred space. And I'm reminded of just how important this teaching is, that our synagogue is absolutely beautiful. Temple Israel is a gorgeous sanctuary. I remember last March visiting for the first time and just being in awe of how beautiful the sanctuary was, how gorgeous it was, how it manages to feel both large and intimate and close to other people there at the same time. But with all that said, it's important to remember that God and Judaism lives where Jews live. So this year, our mikdashei me'at, our small temples, are in our homes. We take these spaces that we're so used to being in and we turn them into holy spaces, spaces that we use to live our Jewish lives and to form our Jewish communities. And these spaces look very different than the Mishkan described in the Torah portion and what we're used to thinking of as sacred spaces. But as we read Parshat Truma this year and read about the first Jewish temple, we remember that now Jewish temples can look like many different things. They can look like our grand temple, or they can look like a computer screen right in front of you. Shabbat Shalom.